Hello. I'm here down by the lake, back home, and it is sunset on the day 13 Can. We just had a big rainstorm come through. Right when I was going to make the video, I was going to make it in the house, and then the rain cleared out, and I thought, you know what, I'll come down to the lake because it's nice to be down at the lake, especially right after the storm. You know that feeling when you got the freshness of the rain everywhere? The thunder is still kind of like rumbling around somewhere, and it's just a really pleasant atmosphere where the birds start singing again. Now, I don't know whether I'm going to finish this in the light. Probably not by the looks of things. But there we go. So, anyway, first, as I guess I'm becoming accustomed to, I do a little bit of housekeeping just to let you know that there is a course running next week. It will be running Monday to Friday. It will be running 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Guatemala time. 5-day workshop, 20 hours about the calendar and the Nahuales and the numbers, and a much more in-depth look at things. And also, to put it out there, if what I'm talking about interests you and you haven't had one yet, then if you go to my site, you can also sign up to get a reading with me to understand more about the Nahual that you actually carry to help, guide your life. So, today I'm going to be talking about the Trecena of Kame. And the Trecena of Kame, well, Kame, as we may know, means death. It represents the lords of the underworld. It represents transformation. It is the great transformation that we will all go through at some point in our lives, the end of our lives. And it is also simultaneously something which can also be one of our greatest fears. We spend a lot of time kind of like trying to avoid Kame. But eventually it will be inevitable, of course. Now, this brings up some understandings about the Nahual Kame. That it can represent facing our fears, that it can represent spiritual transformation. It can also represent those who have already transformed into the other world, our ancestors. And one of the things that I see with Kame is, the idea that the ancestors are setting challenges for us to help us to develop, to help us to grow spiritually, to help us to transform. And they'll only bring those challenges along when we are at the right point in our development, so we're ready to overcome them. So most of the challenges that come into our lives, we've already kind of like got an idea that they're coming, or what we have to do. We never quite feel ready for it. I always think about it, the night before the race, when you think to yourself, if only I'd have had 1 month more of training and all of these kind of things. It's like, well, tough. It's on your doorstep right now, and it's time to deal with it. And actually, you're perfect. You're in the perfect place at the perfect time with the perfect skill set to go through this challenge. Whether it be a race, whether it be a fear, whether it be some kind of spiritual transformation. And so, the Trecena of Kame, I think, brings up a new opportunity for transformation. And we're going to begin it on the 12th of July 2025 with the day 1 Kame. So we have Kame, the transformer, with the number 1. The number 1 representing beginnings, representing birth, representing novelty in a way. And so it is bringing in a new challenge. Maybe bringing in a new fear is one way we might be able to see it. But I think it's more like a new way of facing an old fear. I think it's kind of like a time of renewal. I think it's about a reconnection with the ancestors to help us to face our fears. And so this day 1 Kame, well, the 1 being that seed that needs the fertilizer to help it to grow and that kind of thing, we could see that as being the advice, the counsel of the ancestors. So the counsel of the ancestors to help us to face our fears. Maybe that's something that we should seek on 1 Kame to help us to get through it. So 1 Kame may well represent, kind of like, it may well be one of these things where just when we thought we'd done something, kind of we had 7 Kame 20 days ago, we got 1 Kame, 7 Kame being the end of the fears, 1 Kame being something new coming up, and it's like, I had that 20-day breather between, kind of like, I thought I'd dealt with it, and now something new's coming in, but it's like, right, okay, yeah, well done, check, you did it. It's time to move on, it's time to move to the next level. And this is the opportunity that 1 Kame brings us, the opportunity to reconnect with our ancestors in order to overcome some new fear, some new challenge. From 1 Kame, we then move to Kech on the day 13th of July 2025. So we have Kech, the Nawal of the wilderness, Kech, the Nawal of the natural world, of the animals, of the plants, of the trees. And here connected with the number 2 representing relationships, but also representing self-sacrifice. And one of the things that it always comes up for me, because Kech is, kind of like very much, I think, it's about the spiritual leadership more than anything else. And the number 2, the self-sacrifice, it's a self-sacrifice that comes from the leader. It's kind of like, if anybody takes on the position of leadership, there's a great sacrifice to that. Because it means that you're not just, kind of responsible for yourself or just responsible for your family or whatever. You're responsible for your students, you're responsible for your people around you, you're responsible for your community. And that is quite a sacrifice to take on. Now, it might be a willing sacrifice, it might be a happy sacrifice. I'm not saying that sacrifice doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just kind of like, hey, I am choosing to give some of my energy, some of my free will, some of my free time, or whatever it might be, in order to make sure that I stand up and do my role, do my part as a leader. And so, for me, I think that is the sacrifice that we, kind of like might go through, particularly if we're taking on leadership roles. Of like, right, sacrificing our time. I'd like to go on a hike, but I don't have time because I'm doing this instead, or whatever it might be. There's that part of it. We can also see that, kind of like Kech speaks with us when we go into the forest. That's where we get our strength, that's where we get our messages, that's where we get our ability to lead from. And here with the number 2, well, this can also represent relationships. And it could be, kind of like about bringing strength into our relationships through our connection with nature. And maybe there's something in your relationship that needs addressing. Maybe this is one of the fears you've got to face. And you'll find the answers through a journey into nature. After 2 Kech, we then move into 3 Anil, and that will fall on the 14th of July 2025. So Anil, the ripening, the yellowing, the maize coming to fruition, joy, happiness, abundance. These are all words that I associate with the Nawal Anil. And here we see it with the number 3. And the number 3 is all about the inner world. It's all about the home. It's about what's going on in here. And so I see this certain thing with 3 Anil. It's about finding that abundance within you. It's about finding that bright light. Maybe even finding the maturity within you. Perhaps if you've got to face something new, finding the maturity within you is a very important thing. But I think there's also something there I want to talk about or think about, the joy within. Because for me, Anil brings joy. when the corn comes to the ripeness, the corn is coming to harvest. My corn that I planted, you may remember I planted my corn on 5R. Well, it will be coming up to 40 days planted, 80 days planted, and the pollen things are on the top, and it's kind of like, I don't know how tall it is, must be 8 or 9 foot tall now. And so it's really going well, and I'm excited. I'm just waiting for that moment when I can peel back the outside of the cob and see, well, on the yellow ones anyway, that yellow anil shining back to me. That's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to bring that in on this one of anil, because it's that feeling of satisfaction that we have when our crop comes to ripeness, when finally, I've been waiting, I've been watching, I've been kind of like going, looking at it, talking to it, that kind of thing, Finally, we get ripening. The fruits of our labour come along. But here, we're seeing it on a 3-day. And at 3-day, looking inside, it's like looking inside for your happiness, looking inside for your ripeness, looking inside for your maturity that's going to help you to overcome the challenges that you might face. And so, kind of like, I guess, well, with the skies darkening around here at the moment, it could also be saying kind of like, look, if everything is looking dark on the outside, remember, you got to go inside to find that light. You got to find that happiness within you rather than outside of you, because if it's all dark, that's where the light's got to come from. It's got to come from within. And so this might be a fantastic exercise for the day 3 Anil, to contemplate the abundance that you carry within you, the joy that you carry within you, the light that you carry within you. From 3 Anil, on the 15th of July, we then move into 4 Toch. Okay, so we have Toch, the Nawal of service and payment. Toch, the Nawal, kind of like, great day to be making a ceremony, great day to be paying off debts, because it's all about resolving our debts. And here with the number 4, it's very much in the physical realm. It's very much about, kind of like putting action into it. It's not thinking about it, and it's not kind of like a esoteric kind of thing. It's putting it into action. And so, as always, you'll see in the text that accompanies this recording, you'll see a selection of fantastic projects here around the lake, like Odim, like Water for Life, like Konochel. There's just 3 that really help the local people here. And so 4 Toch gives an opportunity to make a payment, to make a physical payment. Okay? And so, well, I think I've probably covered that one fairly well there as well. But, this is kind of like, I think there is something which is quite literally about putting your money where your mouth is, as it were. It's like, kind of like, if we say that we're helping, we say that we want to, pay back, we want to be of service. 4 Toch brings it up and says, right, okay, what physical service are you going to do? Are you going to bring in? How are you going to be physically of service to your community, to the people around you? Okay? From 4 Toch, we then move into 5 Tzi, and that will fall on the 16th of July. And so Tzi, the Nawal of faith and loyalty and justice and law. Tzi, the Nawal of the dog. And here with the number 5. Number 5 representing putting our energy into things, putting our work into things. Okay, it's the hand that does the work that, kind of like helps to sustain us, keeps us moving forwards and that kind of thing. But it's like, we have to keep, kind of like applying the energy. And what are we applying the energy to? We're applying it to faith and loyalty and unconditional love. Now, of course, if we are in this Trecena that can represent the we're in the Trecena that can represent facing our fears, then faith and loyalty are going to be 2 of the things which might be really important to keep us going. And this is suggesting we're going to have to put our work into it, put our effort into it, put our focus on it. It's like sometimes we might become disillusioned with facing a challenge we don't even know how we can get through. And yet, there's our faith. There's our loyalty to our path, our loyalty to ourselves, which is helping us to move forwards. And so, my suggestion would be, kind of like put your energy into what you are loyal to, what you are faithful to on that day 5Z, to keep you on the straight and narrow, because Z can also bring along some distractions. Those distractions might be, well, you know what it's like, you've got this thing, this challenge that you've got to do. Maybe it's a fear that you're facing or something like that, and something comes along that we like the feel of or the smell of or the taste of or whatever it might be. Maybe it's one of our vices, or maybe it's just something that kind of like stimulates our senses. And what do? Oh yeah, we just kind of like, we drop that challenge and we go over to the that thing that makes us feel good instead. Okay, and kind of like the 5 on that Z for me is kind of like saying, right, okay, well, are you ready for that? Are you ready to be faithful and loyal to what it is that you're working on, this transformation? Or kind of like, can you put your effort into overcoming the temptation that comes your way? From 5Z, we then move into 6 bats. So this will fall on the 17th of July. So bats, the Nawal of the artist, the Nawal of the creator. Bats, the Nawal of the weaver. And here with the number 6, the number of family, the number of ultimate stability. Now, I think that 6 bats is quite an exceptional day. I've met some 6 bats people in my life, and they've all been exceptionally bright and creative geniuses. And so I would say that 6 bats can be an extremely favourable day, because you have bats, which is one of the most favourable nawals, combined with the number 6, ultimate stability, the number of family. Okay, and so you bring those two things together, you have the ultimately stable creation. Now, the 6, I like to see it like the 4, the physical realm, but drawing on the heart of the sky and the heart of the earth. And so it's drawing on those divine essences and manifesting them into the physical realm. Well, of course, I mean, that's, if we combine that with the genius creator of bats, we can understand that this can be a very, very powerful day for anything that we want to create. Our art, the beauty that we're bringing into the world, the words that we're using, whatever it might be. 6 bats is a very, very powerful day for that. And again, this can be something which can help us to overcome our challenges. It can help us to overcome our troubles. Like, it brings in a creative spark that is down to earth, but also highly connected. And I think that, kind of like that combination is something, kind of like, I think there's the ebb and the flow as we go through the Trecena, and maybe it starts off hard when we're looking at this new challenge that we're facing, and then we're kind of like remembering that light that's within us and making our offering and all of that kind of thing. And then 6 bats comes along with the creativity and the stability and the, kind of like the ability that helps us to understand, kind of like what we're really carrying with us, that can help us to get through that challenge, help us to overcome whatever challenge that we're facing when we're connected with that 6 and that bats in that way. It's coming up with the answer for it, because although Noch is, certainly the one who comes up with answers, one of the things that we see with bats is that bats is very, very clever. And, bats works things out. Whilst Noch might come up with a solution, bats is the one that works things out. Okay? And here we see it like making that a practical thing which is connected above and below. Okay, so it's drawing on divine inspiration in order to manifest things into the physical world. And what's it manifesting? Well, figuring stuff out. Okay, so like I say, I think that 6 bats should be a highly fortunate day, especially if we choose to engage our artistic side with it. From 6 bats, we then move into 7 and that's going to fall on the 18th of July. So, 7 For those of you that have been following me for a while, you may recognize 7 and my relationship to it. 7 I like to think of as being the end of the road, but then I would also see it as choose your path. Okay, it's like we get to the top of the mountain, the 7, there we are on the top of the mountain, great, we've climbed to the top of the pyramid. Now, which path do we want to take? Now, I've probably mentioned this before. A few years ago, I realised when I was at El Mirador that this really kind of represented that 7 for me. I first heard about the Mirador Trek in about 1994. I first did the Mirador Trek in 2016. It would have been a lot easier if I'd have done it 22 years earlier, but like, there we go, you know, you live and learn. So, I was standing on top of La Danta, and I felt like I'd completed a journey of 22 years from first reading the article about this amazing trek to El Mirador to actually standing there on top of El Mirador, on top of La Danta, sounding my caracol, realising that I'd come to the pinnacle of the journey. It's like, you know, might say, hey, next year I want to set a challenge to climb Everest or get to the peak of Everest. Okay, you get to the peak of Everest. Now, theoretically, in our lives, we would kind of like be saying, well, yes, and then I want to come safely back home again, or whatever the case may be. That's kind of like implied in our journey, but we don't necessarily talk about it. As far as we're concerned, kind of like the completion of the challenge is when we get to the top of the pyramid, or when we get to the top of the mountain. Now, I haven't been up Everest, that's for sure. But when you climb high peaks, and when you climb pyramids, when you climb La Danta, when you look out over the jungle, well, what can you see? Over there, you can see El Tigre. Over there, you can see Nakbe. Over there, you can see Nachtun. And on a really clear day, you might be able to see Calakmul, 40 kilometers away. And what you can see is the tops of the pyramids. And so you're seeing kind of like the pinnacle of the next destination. You're not seeing the road there, the Sakbe that's going through the jungle. You're seeing the peak. And so it's showing you the best bits. And so when you're standing on top of that pyramid, looking out at the best bits, this is showing you your next destinations. Not how to get there, just showing you where you're going. And so, yes, it might well be the end of the road for something. It might be the conclusion of something. But it's also showing you, okay, now where are we going now? Now where are we going next? You know, kind of like, what's our next one to go with? Okay, so be on the lookout for that on 7 What journey is coming to an end? And where do the new paths lay? Because it's up to you to choose a new path. Okay? From 7 we then move into 8 8 falling on the 19th of July. Now, another one of my ideas for this video was that I was going to take this in front of my corn, which I mentioned my corn already. I'm very excited about my corn, obviously, and especially being it's so tall. Now, I'll just swing the camera around a little bit because there's some corn growing right here as well. And just to say kind of like, this is the corn coming to ripeness. There's many like places right now around the lake where you can see, people's crops are coming to ripeness. It's the end of the first cycle. The corn will ripen, and then a second cycle can be planted to come to fruition before the end of rainy season. I'm going to tie that in with the solar zenith transits coming up, you'll see. Anyhow, the reason why I mention it, of course, is because Ach is connected with the cornstalk. That cornstalk, that spinal column, that is the stem of the corn plant. Okay? And Ach represents things that hold everything in place. See, the corn is the food of the community. Everybody's thriving on the corn. But it's also, kind of like it can be seen metaphorically, or it can be seen, kind of like physically, as it were. It's about support of the community. It's about the support of our home. It's about all those things that make our home work and make our community work. And when I make ceremony for Ach, as I will do on the Ach day, because Ach is the Nawal of my altar. And so if you're in San Marcos, if you're around the lake, please, 9 a.m. on Ach, 19th of July, I will be making ceremony here. So please feel free to come along if you like. Because Ach, for me, is about the celebration of our community. It's about a celebration of leadership. It's a celebration of harmony. And it's a call for harmony. It's about bringing harmony into our world, bringing harmony into our lives, bringing harmony into our homes. And here, connected with the 8. So, Ach as the leader can also represent the baston, the bara, the, kind of like the staff that the elders carry. Can be, that's Ach as well. It shows authority. And authority, well, has two faces, right? Authority can be, authority can be necessary. Authority can be domineering, authoritarian, and all those kind of things. When, we have to get the balance right. There's no point in having a weak leader that has no authority. But we do need compassionate leaders. And so, kind of like trying to find that balance. For me, that's what that 8 is around. And it's about the wholeness of leadership. That's what Ach represents. It's the understanding of when we need to use stick and when we need to use the carrot, as it were. And, having the rightful understanding of that so that we can bring harmony to our community. Because sometimes we have to stand up and we have to bring our staff down. And we have to say, that's wrong. We have to say, kind of like, this is causing an imbalance in our community. This is, like a dreadful thing for our society, or whatever it might be. That's part of leadership as well. But we have to remember we're there to nurture. And so, kind of like, it's not all about, one side. It's understanding the wholeness. And for me, that's what Ach is about. And we could see it very much as, kind of like petitioning the Nawal Ach to bring us that healthy balance of authority and patience, love. From Ach, we then move into 9 Ish. And we move into 9 Ish on the 20th of July. Ish, the Nawal of Mother Earth. Ish, the most feminine of all of the Nawales, and here combined with the number 9, the most feminine of all the numbers, the number of life. So for me, if there was a day which we could describe as the day of the feminine, the day of Mother Earth, I think 9 Ish would very much be it. It's recognizing the connection to life that comes from the mother, the connection to life that comes from Mother Earth. That's what 9 Ish is all about. It's representing the magic in our life. Ish representing our connection with the Mother Earth, which can be our connection with magical. And here, with the number 9, is about life, and it's about bringing it to life, not just theorizing about it or, reading about it and that kind of thing, but going out and engaging with it, going out and engaging with the sacred sites, with the altars, with Mother Earth. So it's certainly a day on which we might be able to connect with Mother Earth in a very profound way, to bring the magic to life. So certainly a great day for ceremony as well. From 9-ish, we then move into 10 Zikin on the 21st of July. So, Zikin, the Nawal of the bird. Zikin, the Nawal of vision, the visionary. And here, with the number 10, community. Community vision. A vision for community. Something that bonds us all together, perhaps sharing our vision with community. Maybe this is the way that we overcome our challenges in this Trecena of Kame. Maybe this is the way that we overcome our fears, is to understand our community's vision. That we're not on our own in a way, that there's more people looking out for us, and that we have a shared vision perhaps. Sometimes this is a thing that we maybe get us into that sort of point where we feel lonely, we feel like we're on our own with this quest, with this, facing our fear. But no, there's people there that can help us. So, what a great day to be sharing your vision with your community, whatever that might be. And perhaps when we share our vision with our community, that's when we come together to make agreements, and it becomes a shared vision for all. From 10 Zikin, we then move into 11 Achmach, and that's going to fall on the 22nd of July. So Achmach, the Nawal of forgiveness, the Nawal of pardon, the Nawal of being human, and here with the number 11. So this is many, many directions. This is this can be quite a confusing day. Achmach, we know that it doesn't always get it right first time. Achmach, it's here to teach us about forgiveness. It's here to teach us about acceptance. And the 11 is very creative, but that creativity, it comes from, following our intuition. And sometimes, we can't necessarily plan for that. And so when we see 11 and Achmach brought together, this might be quite a chaotic day. This is not necessarily a day to be, planning a lot of the mission critical things, as it were. It may be a day when forgiveness comes from many sides, or the need to forgive comes from many sides. So, as I say, I think it's definitely a day where you wake up and say, right, okay, what can I do that's just soft and loving? What can I do that brings out my artistic human side? Because that's what I've got to work with Achmach. Okay? And that's where we embrace it. That softness, that sensuality, that loving human, that's what Achmach is supposed to be about. And with the, the intuitive, the changeable, unpredictable number 11, it's okay, this is something, just don't set up anything that's too, like I say, too critical, too precise for 11 Achmach as a day. Because I think that's a day when we've got to really have to, take a breath and either say sorry or take a breath and say, hey, that's okay. From 11 Achmach, we move into 12 Noach on the 23rd of July. And so Noach, the Nawal of the mind, the Nawal of the brain, and here combined with the number 12. So Noach is all about knowledge, it's about thought, it's about bringing all of these ideas, all of this knowledge, all of this, all of the thoughts that you've had throughout your life, because the 12 is about bundling together. And perhaps this is kind of interesting when we see it. We're coming up to the last couple of days of the Kame Trecena, the last couple of days to work out how to overcome the challenge. And here we have 12 Noach saying, right, okay, you're going to need your whole library for this one. It's like, think back everything that you hold as thought, as memory, as knowledge, everything that you're carrying with you, from what you learned in school to what you learned last week. All of that. Understanding how to bundle it together to get the right bits out of it to come up with a solution. Because that, for me, is what that 12 Noach is all about. Using our life experience to come up with the solution, perhaps, to the challenges that we face. And then finally, on the 24th of July, we move into 13 Tihash. And so Tihash, the Nawal of the obsidian blade, the Nawal of the warrior, the Nawal of the healer. Tihash, the purifier. And here combined with the number 13, representing the ancestors, representing the spirit world. This is spiritual purification. This is, purification that comes from the ancestors. The 13, where the kayapa is stored within our joints, connecting us with the spirit world, connecting us with, I want to say, kind of like a higher purpose or whatever, however we might be with that. But then connecting it with Tihash. Now Tihash is a strong Nawal. This is the obsidian blade, the warrior, slicing their way across the battlefield on a quest to purify the world. And here, when we connect it with the 13, wow, that's turning it right up. It's like the spirit guiding the warrior's blade. And perhaps this, if we're turning it on our lives, we're turning it on ourselves. As we go through this transformative process, as we finish up this Trecena of Kame, yes, we can see the healing that comes. Tihash is said to be a day of curanderos because, we could see the glyph of Tihash representing 2 lightning strikes, representing the energy that is used within healing. And of course, with that 13, it's a very, very powerful day for a form of spiritual healing. But we could also see that it is, kind of like, let's say, spirit, maybe our guides, maybe our ancestors, maybe our helpers, our Nawal, or whatever it might be, communicating with us and helping us to understand how to use our sword to purify ourselves. That 13 Tihash, sort of like the spiritual transformation that comes to us as we, complete this Trecena of Kame, to purify and cut away that which we don't need to take forwards. So, I hope that that's been interesting for you. It's got a bit dark now. So, I hope to see you again in 13 days' time for the Trecena of Kawok. Thank you.